Why do you think that this one repeats as the champ again? What about this putter makes it so consistent? Hello everybody, welcome back. This is episode number 76 of No Putts Given. I'm Miranda here with Tony, Harry, and Chris. And guys, we've got a lot to talk about today, so welcome. I missed y'all last week.
That's right, we didn't shoot. What did I do?
How many people miss Tony? I miss Tony.
No one.
Harry? No.
Harry, no.
I speak to Tony at least once a day regarding Most Wanted stuff. So
I get that British experience daily.
yeah, you're welcome.
Well, speaking of Most Wanted, last week we did release the winners of 2021's Most Wanted Mallet Test. So let's see. Harry or Tony, do you want to take us through the winners? Who's got it this week?
Well, I'm going to pull in Philip, our hard goods expert. So let me go get him.
Special guest.
Special
Bring in the
guest.
testing manager.
Bring him in.
There he is. No.
And here he is.
What's up, beautiful people?
Hey, Philip. How's it going, man? This is not your first time on No Putts Given.
First one was a slight introduction.
You gave us a wave or something.
Yeah, Chris starting to shoot my leg off with a Nerf gun.
It's true. That was insensitive, and I don't apologize.
Have you ever had your prosthetic leg break on the golf course?
I have, actually. I have.
And I asked because, yeah, it legitimately happened to one of the guys that I play with from time to time.
One of my buddies, I remember we were playing Royal New Kent, which is a local course, it's a pretty hilly course. And we were on like the 11th tee box, and I hit a drive, and I looked down. I felt something weird during my swing, and I looked down, and my joint had cracked and completely like snapped off. So I played the rest of the round though, but it was not.
How?
Improvise.
What does improvise mean? Like duct tape improvise, or like?
Yes, yeah. I have strapped duct tape around my leg before to keep it stable.
Have you ever used like Flex Seal? Have you seen that Flex Seal commercial?
Well, he's not trying to keep it from leaking. We had it happened to one of the guys I played with a year or two ago, and fortunately he lives on the golf course, so he was able to hop in his cart, run home, and get a new foot. So yeah.
I know all about the hopping life, so yeah.
All right, putter test.
Harry brought you in because we are going to break down the winners of the 2021 Mallet Test. So, Philip, who do we got? Should we count from 5 to 1 or 1 to 5?
All right, 1 to 5. Let's go that.
Okay.
So we had a repeat winner. We threw in the Odyssey Triple Track 2 ball, which won last year, and that ended up winning again this year.
Comfortably again, right?
Comfortably again, for sure. Product of consistency, finished very, very well. Really excelled at 20 feet. Number 2, we had Odyssey 2-ball 10S. Again, Odyssey keeps making putters, whether it's the looks, the feel. People tend to love them. Our testers liked them, and the performance and the data showed with it. With that one finishing in second. Third place, we had Even Roll ER8V. So one of the V series putters that just came out from them. Very classic look to it. It had a positive strokes gain from all 3 distances as well. It was one of the leaders from 5 and 10 feet. Number 4 was Odyssey again with the White Hot OG7. Again, 3 out of the 5 were Odysseys, and they reintroduced that White Hot insert that they've had 20 years plus. Putting with that thing, it's definitely got a good roll off the face. People are familiar with that 7 look design and everything, so it was very appealing to them. Best value was the Wilson Staff Infinite Buckingham.
That's a long name.
Yeah, it is.
Are there any hyphens in that name?
Oh, man.
I don't think so.
The Buckingham is that's kind of that spider shape, right?
It does got a spider escape look to it. I would say hit or miss kind of with the appeal in terms of the looks from the tester base, but results are results, and it was a leader from 5 feet, so it had the best putt strokes gained from 5 feet within the test. So
that's kind of a cool trend that I think from the last really several years, right? That first TaylorMade Spider came out, and TaylorMade talking about it like it was the next hot shit, and putter design, and these things have a way of the market and not just the market, but competitors sort of decide whether or not a technology and a shape is validated. And when you figure like there are, I mean, how many putter shapes legitimately repeat from line to line and sell? It's maybe a handful, right? That everybody has something that's like that. And so, you know, to have one of your designs become that ubiquitous thing in everybody's lineup, man, that's, you know, that's success for sure. So,
right?
Yeah, I agree.
Like, especially in the mallet world, like, easier to make that argument, right? With, like, you know, answer style heads and blade type putters, even, you know, kind of the 9 Wilson 8802 type of look, some of these iconic things. But you think like the mallet world is relatively recent, you know, in comparison. So, you know, you have the winged mallet, I guess, if you want to call it that, or the spider, like people call it the spider, right? Like that's, I guess that's maybe the defining thing is when people start referring to it by the name, you know, the model name that you have. It looks like
that is the shape, right? There's the answer shape and the spider shape and the
yeah, exactly. And really, I mean, you probably give TaylorMade the win on that one. You might have to give Callaway or / Odyssey the win on the Fang, the number 7.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Where pretty much everybody has, you know, if I think in the mallet world, not the half mallets with kind of the basic moon shape to it, but these designs that were clearly very different when they started out, right? Different from anything else. You're like, oh, you know, that mallet, the Fang thing is like, are you going to stab somebody with it? Or is it like for an aeration tool? Or what is this thing? And
it's multi-purpose. You can do a lot with that putter.
And that's what I like about it.
Occasionally make a putt.
Occasionally maybe make a putt. But yeah, I think that's a fair point that the spider and maybe the number 7 / Fang / whatever you want to call it, ubiquitous now.
And the other thing too, it just seems like every year now, at least I think certainly 2 in a row, maybe 3 years in a row, where Wilson has just kind of snuck in with a value putter.
Absolutely.
Or at least, you know, over the course of multiple tests. I mean, what do you see there?
Last year was, I think second place was the Infinite L. And, you know, again, a value putter that in our data and in our testing performed well. So, I mean, doesn't always go to show that looks make a good putter. So if it works, it works.
How much is the Wilson?
Speaking of,
$99.99, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, $100 for a putter. Yeah,
Like that's what Tommy Armour was the last 2 years. I think it was at that same price point. So if $100 or less, and you're looking for saying, "Hey, I don't want to spend that $300-400, whatever," it's like that's
Absolutely,
that's
yeah.
pretty damn cheap for that level of performance. So
if anything, it's worth giving it a try. You know.
You mentioned, right, we've got 3 Odyssey putters in the top 5, right?
Yep.
Where did the Toulon, because we had a Toulon in the mix
We
as
had
well.
Toulon, and it placed 6th, if I remember correctly. So
So yeah, it's pretty solid.
strong showing across the board.
I want to revisit the first place, the triple track. Philip, why do you think that this one repeats as the champ again? What about this putter makes it so consistent?
It performed extremely well. I mean, we did up the...
wait, hold on a second. It won because it performed well? I just want to...
Yeah. I mean,
Okay,
that's
well.
kind of what the whole deal is, right?
Performance does matter.
We were skeptical about it last year because of some of the looks, the lines on it. Is it a gimmick?
Yeah, the lines.
It's ugly.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, a lot of people, you know, kind of a mixed bag still with your traditionalists in terms of the look and whatnot with the triple track, you know, distracting, whatever. But there's something to be said there when it performs extremely well, whether it's the triple track helping with alignment, the micro hinge technology in the insert face, keeps the ball rolling, gets it rolling smoothly, more consistently. There's a lot of different variables there, but, you know, it's a product of consistency and performance.
I know you weren't there last year to be able to compare from year to year in terms of what testers were saying about it. But like I said, I know most people were skeptical because of the lines last year.
yeah.
Were you finding this year there was any skepticism, or they were starting to figure out, all right, this thing has some credibility, doesn't matter what it looks like, it works?
I think there's some more credibility there just because people have had more exposure to it, especially, you know, with it being out for a year and a half, and triple track continues to perform well with Odyssey across the board. So I would say there's definitely less skepticism with it. You know, if somebody's first time exposure to it, they're definitely going to be skeptical about it. They're like, I don't
Is
like all
it
the
because
lines.
it's ugly? Is that?
Yeah, I
where
would
that
say
comes
so.
from?
Yeah. Different. with mallet putters, like we said, design gets a little crazy. So
Did you at all do any testing with like the triple track 2-ball with a triple track golf ball and do like sextuple track?
I haven't done that
Didn't
yet.
you?
I don't know if my eyes could handle all those lines.
How does the math work on that? Is it like a factorial or is it like exponential?
Yeah.
Like how does that work?
3 times 3? Yeah, that's. I don't know.
6-liner?
Yeah, we'd have to. I could reach out to Doc Hawk and figure out the math on that. What we're dealing with.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Here's something I'm interested with. So, all right. So go back a generation. So like last year said it tested exceptionally well, right? There's a guy that was at Callaway, at Odyssey, designing putters for a couple decades, right? A guy named Austin Rawlinson.
Rings a bell.
Rings a bell. May have heard a thing or two from him. So he was at Callaway / Odyssey, right? We're talking several decades. He is no longer there, right? And so the OG series was, for all intents and purposes, pretty much ready to go. Last year would have come out, if not for COVID, probably that summer. Obviously, that got pushed to this year. A good bit, from what I understand, a good bit of this particular line that's out now. I mean, it was already down the production chain in terms of decisions on final touches and things. Certainly some changes toward the end, but for all intents and purposes, it was pretty much well done as well. And really starting now, whatever comes next is going to be kind of that post Austin era. And so I'm going to be really interested to see how his absence changes. Is there a noticeable difference moving forward? Just because he had a hand in so many of the designs for so long, it really is a kind of a, in the putter space, it would be like Titleist not having Vokey there. He really is the name behind that entire brand for the last several decades.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about this before. It gets lost in the shovel how much designs are influenced by the people who make them. And it sounds obvious like that, but these aren't, it's not like this Callaway is this collective mind necessarily.
There's no focus group per se.
Right. There is,
right.
There are individual peoples and individual stylings. And so, we see that time and time again. I think maybe, the greatest example in recent memory that I always point to is TaylorMade's iron lineup when that transferred from Brian Basil to Tomo, and Tomo draws a lot of his inspiration from Formula One and those type of things. And so you saw a pretty significant change in design there, and then evolution when Matt Bovee took over. And I would expect you're going to see similar things at Callaway, where, all right, who is the next man up, right? And we may never learn that name necessarily, but Luke Williams is going to have a hand in it. He knows what he's doing. Sean Toulon has nearly a century of experience in golf, I think, at this point. And so Sean will have a hand as well, and you'll see a lot carry over, and probably some different things as well. And so ultimately, the question is it different good, different bad, or different but more or less
different,
the same? We'll find out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Philip, thank you for being with us. I know it's a busy job over there, so congrats on another successful Most Wanted test done and completed.
Thank you. Surviving day by day, baby.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Another dozen or so left, right?
Oh yeah. It's like 9 or so left. We're getting close to finishing Players Distance Iron, so that will be the next on the bucket list. So
get it.
Thanks for having me on, and I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Send the Brit back in.
Do we have to get Harry back, or we just keep going?
We're just going to keep going.
Just keep going.
I heard that shit, Tony. You definitely missed me, I know. I can tell.
Oh, Harry's back.
Yeah, that's so much better.
Okay, Chris has returned because it's his turn to be in the What's in the Bag seat. Chris, are you ready?
I'm in the seat.
Okay, I'm going to accept some assistance from my other podcasters here to quiz you on all of the items in your bag, but why don't we start with the big one? You all right, Harry?
Sorry,
Nap?
it's been a long day already.
Okay. You can take this segment off if you want to.
You might as well.
All right, let's start with the number one. Chris, what driver are you playing?
All right, so
I got 5.
I do want to state that there's some things, early season. We're going to be doing some testing. We'll see.
Things are in flux.
It's tweak season.
Yeah.
As I get ready to defend my crown as the Wednesday Night League 9-hole champion.
Okay, well, if it changes, you can come back and update. We'll let you have that space.
Because there's some stuff, we got 2.5 feet of snow outside. I haven't been able to test.
I like to have like this big bag update.
What's in the
Yes.
bag?
Where did you ever hear that sound being played or anything?
I know exactly what he's talking about.
That's old
Like a news
American
break-in.
news noises.
Breaking news.
That's what
Welcome
they used
to
to do.
America.
That's awesome.
Welcome to America.
Welcome to America. Starting off in the driver's slot, we have the Ping G425 LST. Previously, I had the 410 LST. Very, very similar performance with this one for me. 410 obviously was historically good. So this is what we're starting with.
Okay.
Paired with a Ventus Blue 6X. Love that shaft. I have it. Thing I really like about this head for me, big things are being able to put it in those flat lie angle settings, trying to help mitigate some swing flaws, shall we say.
Do you have that in a draw bias setting as well? In the back of the weight?
Yeah, so right now I put it in the draw bias setting of the weight on the back.
In a flat setting as well.
But a flat setting, so they kind of offset each other.
Yeah,
Start it right, make it go left.
Bingo.
Nice.
That's exact little push draw. Yeah, exactly.
Push draw.
So that's
PD
it.
setting.
I will be testing likely. I'm gonna actually go through the True Golf Fit thing just because I want to see what it would recommend for me. I had good success with that last year just to kind of see, and it was kind of fun. It actually suggested a couple of things I wouldn't have necessarily gone out and said, hey, I'm going to test those. So we'll see what that comes up with. But right now,
is it tipped or anything, or you just play it straight in?
6X straight in. Yep. What's next? What do you want?
Go down the list.
Go down the list.
There's an order to these things.
Yeah, there are. So Fairway Woods, again.
This is an NBC News special report.
What's going on? What's happening? What's happening?
Sounds like someone's gonna die.
Usually that's what they're for.
Sometimes.
Jeez.
Early testing again, but
What is that? No.
PXG.
Oh, I mean, I'm on a level with everybody here. I have absolutely really loved PXG Fairway Wood. Certainly the Gen 2 stuff. Like,
yes, I love the Gen 2 ones.
it was really good, underappreciated for sure. Like, I think a fair amount, not all of PXG stuff, but a fair amount was.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that crown design for me, I'm like, when PXG's been doing darkness editions of a lot of stuff lately. So I'm like, if you do a darkness edition of this stuff, let's, hit me up. But I look at that crown and I'm like, man, that's. And we say looks don't matter.
I know, but it kind of looks like a shuttlecock on the top of it, doesn't it? Just
I'm so sorry, what?
It does. What do you call it? A shuttlecock or
that's right.
birdie? What do you call it?
No, a shuttlecock is the proper term.
You say it again. Say it again.
Shuttlecock.
Cock. That's great. Cock.
Shuttlecock.
I don't know how we got to shuttlecock from PXG 3-wood.
We really probably should emphasize the shuttle.
But breaking news.
Back to you, Chris.
On site here at the 18th fairway. What we've noticed, Jimmy, is a lot of different. You can go 3 degrees flat or 2.5 degrees flat if you want to change the loft on it. So getting that open face for me, big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I hear what you're saying about the crown, and it is divisive, no doubt. I personally would love it if it were like a couple shades darker. Like you said, if they did a darkness edition and there was still some contrast there, but like if you have like this matte black top and you did like a charcoaly gray type of thing,
that would be kind of cool. I wouldn't mind that.
I like matte black. Matte black anything.
Well, and it's kind of an interesting argument, right? Because to me, I'm like, there's just too much contrast there. Again, and who cares if I take it out on the course and hit it well, I'm gonna forget about that really quickly. I think I got one round in the tail end of last season with the Titleist TSI 3, and for me that's the opposite. I'm like, that is just like this sea of shiny black, and I'm like, just give me something. Yeah. Just I guess I'm more picky than I think I am about
Yep.
some things. Anyway,
Club I forgot upstairs. I didn't grab 5-wood that I love is Cobra. The tour head. I love the rails on the bottom. I can hit it high, I can hit it low. It's super versatile.
so you got that Ricky Tour model, that
Yeah,
small
that's
5-wood.
exactly it. The smaller fair. So it's it's basically like a bigger hybrid, but it's doesn't have any of that kind of hooky bias to it. It's it really is, to me, the definition of a utility club. Kind of these smaller headed fairways. We've seen DJ go with the 7-wood. You're seeing players. I think Webb Simpson carries like a 3 hybrid and a 4 hybrid, and so finding that kind of opportune versatility in that 18 degree to 22, 23 degree space is an area that I need to explore a little bit more, but I absolutely, that's one that I just don't know that I'll be taking that out of the bag anytime soon, as the Cobra 5-wood.
Let me hop back to that 3-wood real quick. So you said you had that turned down flat.
Yep.
What are you doing? Are the weights neutral, or are you doing kind of that same push draw setting there that you do with the driver?
Yeah, really good question. So right now I got you got the 2 different weights in there. You got one heel weight and one kind of that front center. They, compared to the prototype, right, they had the one in the toe. They got rid of that from the prototype one. Yep. But that presented a couple design problems. So like anytime, as you know, I mean, and Tony points this out all the time, anytime you have weights, you also have to create structures to hold the weights, and those structures cost you weight. They also create things you have to work around, like vibration, right? And
sound problems.
Yeah, which impacts sound
acoustic
and feel.
challenges.
Acoustic challenges. And so when you see a lot of weights, as PXG has had before, or you see weights out on the
87 spiral
80s.
weights working.
Yeah.
Chris, does that 3-wood have a weight at the back to boost
Nope.
NOI and launch? Is it just front
So
and
it's
heel?
Front and heel. So, it's a slightly larger head in terms of, it's not that smaller tour head. So it has a little bit lower, deeper CG just anyway as compared to a smaller head. I didn't find it, a lack of forgiveness at all. I'm more apt to use this off the tee and those kind of things. And then if at my particular course, I'm saying that 5-wood, if I'm in the go zone, and I'm trying to get it up near the green on a par 5 and 2, or, there's a couple par 4s that are exceptionally long where you may be 220, 230, 240 in, having that 5-wood that you can hit straight up in the air and still get some distance with it is beneficial.
What's the loft on that? We probably should move on here pretty quickly because we're just 2 clubs or 3 in deep. But
yep,
I was going to say we've made it through 2.
15.
All
So we
right,
got 15 degrees right there, and I have it set at 15 degrees, but 3 degrees flat.
So that's one of the differences. I tend to be a 13.5 guy in the 3-wood, but that's because hitting the ball high is never an issue.
That's never been an issue for one.
I've turned mine down to 13.5, and it comes out like a bullet.
Irons, split set Mizuno MP20s.
So you go right from 5-wood to irons.
So, well, that's that space. I don't know what I'm going to do with the hybrids yet. I don't know. I got a 4-iron, the MMC 4-iron as well. So right now, that's what it is. But that 4-iron may be
substituted.
It might be substituted. Yeah.
What was that shaft in the 5-wood? Was that also Ventus?
Shaft in the 5-wood was Ventus 8X.
Yep. Okay. I like that.
Again in the blue. Okay. That passes. I'm a long time Mizuno iron user. Thing I loved about the MP20 series, again, they included that layer of copper, which is so interesting, right? In this era of, we want to quantify everything, and we do our very best to do that. Even in testing, when they were doing blind testing with the tour players, they could tell they preferred the feel of the ones with the additional layer of copper, but they couldn't necessarily tell you why. They couldn't quantify it in terms of something else. It really was that subjective feel. And so the first time they've had that copper layer dating back to the TN series, the Tommy Nakajima series, 87s, I think. But I do a split set. So I do the muscle backs in the short irons, where we know that loft tends to create forgiveness. So it's not like, oh my gosh, this 8-iron, 9-iron, pitching wedge is so hard to hit because it's a muscle back. Really, once you start getting to the loft itself, the length,
Yeah,
the things that
loft takes over, and MOI kind of the hard number becomes less of a factor.
precisely,
Really kind of what it boils
precisely.
down to.
So I kind of see those as an extension of like my wedges, in those short ones, and then the rest of the set up through the 7-iron, I use the MMCs, which is basically I think pretty similar, Harry, to your 785s, to kind of that player's muscle. Or
785s is definitely.
Did I catch some red on that shaft? You got the Nippons in there?
Yeah, so these are the Modus Prototype 115s. In that,
Aren't you fancy?
well, la-ti-da.
You think he's in the golf equipment world.
So, but here's the thing about the Nippon ones. The reason that I really, really like Nippon on the steel side, two things. One, their 105, 125 series tends to fit players that were maybe like formerly dynamic gold players. So like if you are an X100, S300 type person, a lot of those players we've seen on tour go into like the 105 or 125 series. Obviously the 105 is a lot lighter, but the 125 is kind of commensurate with that X100 type feel, except to me they feel softer in the hands.
I was gonna say, how's the kick point on that? Is it low, medium, high in the handle? Like, where do you feel it?
Performance-wise, very, very similar to Dynamic Gold. So for me, kind of that mid launch to low mid spin. I definitely don't spin them too much. The prototypes, why they're prototypes, it's that middle weight. So they're getting that 115. They end up being about 120 grams or so. And Nippon did a limited release of a black edition of only however many sets last fall, and they sold out, super quick. And they were gone. But they are going to be coming to retail at some point in 2021, I understand, with that 115. So that'll be in the lineup as a Modus 115, probably more in that 120 gram range. The other thing is they tend to be a hair soft, maybe compared to the rest of the industry. So like a lot of times you would go up a flex. So like if you were, again, say that X100 player, you might be the TX in these. If you were kind of stiff to stiff plus, definitely want to go at least X or maybe X hard step, which is
I was going to say a question on that. Now, a lot of players would say, all right, I would either hard step them or potentially go heavier. But if you go heavier, then you're changing the kick point depending on how you load and transition your swing. Yeah. So is there a rule of thumb out there that we can just educate the guys and just say?
I would say this. If there's a rule of thumb, and I'm sure there's some that will disagree with this, I found, at least for myself and a lot of others, that I'm more sensitive to the weight of the club than I am the flex.
Yeah, that's the same as me.
I would be far more inclined to stick with that same weight. If that's very comfortable for me and my swing and my transition and my release and all of those things, then I would dial it in by hard stepping or soft stepping, as opposed to saying, hey, that was really good in 120. Let's see what that's like in 130 grams. Because that 10 grams, when you're swinging it, let's say, swinging 7-iron at 90 miles an hour, that 10 grams is going to feel probably to me a lot more different than saying, okay, let's take, and just quick thing, right? Hard stepping, soft stepping. If you hard step a club, you're taking the shorter discrete length iron shaft and putting it in the longer iron. So you're taking the 9-iron shaft, which is generally a little stiffer than the 8-iron shaft. You're taking the 9-iron shaft, putting in the 8-iron, 8-iron shaft in the 7-iron shaft in the 6, so on and so forth.
I know Miranda was like, what the hell is hard stepping and soft stepping? I can just
and soft stepping's just the opposite, right? Put the 4-iron shaft in the 5-iron head and up you go. But what these are is the prototype, so it's like the 115 weight X flex hard stepped once. So that's that. And I'm not sure if you see it there, but did some kind of fun little ferrules on there. Just kind of, gotta have a little flavor.
Fancy.
Little flavor in there. Wedges. I brought my favorite wedge. This is possibly my favorite wedge of all time. I'm not sure if you can see if on there it says soft is slow. That's just a reminder. Just something I like to remind myself, right? When I'm
in case you ever forget.
When I'm working out. right? And I'm trying to get a little stronger. Soft is slow. We want to be fast. We want to be quick.
Hey, Chris, are you soft and slow?
Well, today, as compared to maybe a month ago, I'm not quite as soft and not quite as slow.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm getting there.
You're getting there. Nice.
I'm getting there. So this is Vokey SM8. This is the 56 degree D.
How you grinding? D grind. There you go.
Grind. And like I said, I picked my favorite wedge because this is one I use, inside 100 yards for as much as I possibly can. For me, this is a really versatile grind.
What's the loft on your pitching wedge?
46.
So you go 46, 50, 56, 60?
Correct. Yep. So the 50, obviously prior to this year with Vokey, you had one grind. It was the F grind, and you either had a slightly higher bounce or slightly lower bounce. So I went with the lower bounce. So I got a 50-08. That, again, it's basically a weak lofted pitching wedge. And then from there, I went 56 and 60.
D grind in both, or did you go?
Nope. So D grind in the 56. So as we know, D grind's like kind of the player's higher bounce.
That's the best grind.
It's the best grind, not the best finish.
It's the best grind for me. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. I don't want hate mail.
These ones are almost worn out. These are from last year. And I was actually looking because it's kind of fun. Like Vokey can, they can, they're custom pro and they do some stamps and they can actually engrave things on the shaft. If you need like little reminders for yourself and things. And so I'm not sure if that'll focus, but it says center your core. I want to make sure that when I'm turning, I want to keep that core centered. I don't want to sway too much right here. You did some videos on that, I think, recently on turning, not swaying, staying kind of centered on that. So that helps me, especially with wedges. I don't want to lean. I don't want to flip. I want to just stay nice, kind of cover the ball, stay centered on it. So that helps me to kind of remind myself to do that.
No, I like that. I've got, on my clubs, I have every distance that I hit my iron. So say a 7-iron, I go full, it goes 185. And then a knockdown 7-iron is 175. So I've got that reminder on my clubs just so I don't need to guess. I'm a little bit forgetful.
Those little things are helpful.
Yeah.
So I go 56D, and then in the 60, I go M.
Love that grind.
Which is a little lower bounce. So they do the 60-08. Again, my philosophy kind of thinking being I want to have one that's maybe a little higher bounce, one that's a little lower bounce depending on course conditions, places you play, shots that you might run into at my home course. There's several like runoff areas, a lot of runoff areas on different greens where you got a really, really tight area that, if you're pitching and it's level, you can use a lot of different clubs for that. If you're trying to pitch and you're going up and you have elevation to cover, you got a couple options, bump and runs, those kind of things. But if you got that tighter shot where you need some elevation to it, the M grind again kind of works for me. My thinking probably this year is probably same configuration, but I've heard they have a new finish that might be the best finish.
I've heard that finish is money.
The slate blue is in fact the best finish.
It is nice.
And actually, I can make a legitimate argument above and beyond the fact that it is the best looking finish on any wedge ever in golf whole wide world stuff. But also the thing that's really cool about that finish is, in addition to the fact that it looks awesome, it is really durable. It's as durable as the Tour Chrome, so you don't get any of that PVD. Oh, hey, I spent $200 on this wedge and look at my finish flake off. That crap doesn't happen. So, if you like it, and you should, because it's the best finish. It will last.
Well, I think, Tony, you even went so far as once to say that PVD is a crap finish, which compared to things like slate blue and QPC or QPQ finishes, it is.
LOL.
Yeah.
As those. So there you go. Probably don't need the breaking news thing when the slate blue ones come in, but I may be asking for feedback on what to stamp on there because I want to do something kind of fun on the slate blue.
Here's what I do is every time you chip in, which I haven't chipped in with my wedges yet, you put a stamp on there.
That's a Jose Miraflor
Yeah,
thing.
it's really cool.
Showed me like every time he chips one in, he gives it a ding.
Gives it a ding. Dinger.
So how depressing is it, like in July, when it's just blank?
Well,
Like-
yeah, but here's the thing: no one will know.
I've got putters that are blank.
Chris, you brought up a point about having a little bit of different bounces.
Yes.
For the conditions, say if it's a little bit firmer. Me and Tony actually went into this before I got my wedges.
Yeah.
And talked about, hey, should you really change out for, say, firmer conditions? And the answer was no. You want to play pretty much throughout the whole year. Now, if you're going to play something that's really concrete, the pros might change maybe one of the wedges potentially.
You see a lot of things happen. You see a lot of changes for Augusta, for example. That's the classic example, and that's why in spring, right, about that time of year, Vokey. So I would assume we're probably going to see one here pretty soon. Vokey will do a limited edition WedgeWorks release because a lot of the guys are switching wedges at Augusta to go to this kind of high loft, low bounce combination to handle, essentially work really well for what amounts to an extremely firm and fast golf course, especially when you get on those greens. So.
I want to make a dad joke so bad.
Please do.
Well, you're talking about bounce, and it probably depends on whether you're playing in California because they've got more bounce in California. No one?
No.
I got nothing. I got nothing.
All right, Matt, cut that out. That was bad.
You got a putter?
I'm perturbed.
How many putts do you have?
312.
Makes sense.
But we're down to 2 right now that are very, very similar. Even roll V series. This is the ER2 head again. It's definitely on the wall of fame, for blade putter testing. The ER2 has its place. It's earned it. It's a phenomenal putter. With the V series, getting something with a little bit of a slant neck, just kind of that shorter slant neck I have definitely a mid arc. Every time I've done the ping putter app, done the fittings, like it's just that little bit of an arc, not the straight backs, not straight through, not Tony, who is probably the best example of like a lot of open and a lot of close, a lot of rotation. I'm very comfortably right in between those. And so I have, like I said, that is currently, because that one's, a newer model. I did not have that particular one last year. So the one that we've been working on with that as well, a little Adele. This is the EAS 2.
Toe up.
Which did exceptionally well in our testing last year. And really, I mean, that's with so many of our clubs, that's where I start is our testing and go from there. I mean, it's great information and it's a great place to start that decision. It's like not everything in my bag is a most wanted winner, right? That's where you start the discussion. And then you go from there and figure out what it is that maybe works better for you. Like with the wedges, for me, I know the SM8s were not the absolute top wedge. The availability of the bounce grind configurations is a huge deal for me. So that's a big advantage in my opinion. On the putter side, I look at heads that have tested really, really well. The ER2, like I said, this particular Adele, they've both tested very well. And then the opportunity for me to work with those companies and be fit for those clubs, huge selling point. So those are the 2 that I have right now. Golf ball is Pro V1X Left Dash. Like I said, best ball in the market that the Titleist doesn't talk about enough. But I love it. It's a great golf ball. It does, like I said, it checks all the boxes for me. It's very, very long off the tee. It's low enough spin with irons and wedges, so I can use slightly softer shafts in my irons and not worry about hitting a 7-iron with 8,000 revs of backspin. So I can use slightly softer shafts in my irons and wedges and not be ripping the ball off the green, which I love. And it has plenty of greenside spin for me. And It's a hair firmer feeling off the putter than maybe some others, but
That it is.
It's very
That it is.
clicky. It's very
some
clicky.
people may call it clicky. However,
That's your mantle layer at work right there.
there's your mantle layer. But with the inserts and the head designs of the putters that I use, if anything, that tends to soften up that feel just a little bit. And so it's not like you have a really firm 303 milled stainless head with, no grooves, nothing on it, and you're basically hitting this really firm piece of metal onto a really firm ball, and it sounds like, it's super clicky. If anything, the putter heads I have help to kind of take that, a step down. It still definitely feels firm off the putter, but it does not feel clicky any longer to me. So
I have a question.
Go ahead, Miranda.
Is this what golf dudes sit around and talk about over a beer? Like, do we have 35-minute questions about, like, what's in your bag?
Some hardcore guys, yeah.
Well, I would say it's like, yes, but it's like, hey, I got this driver, the 3-wood, blah, blah, blah. We don't go into like shafts. If it's tips, like this is like hardcore.
I do.
Everything
Tony
with hair
and
is
I
about
do.
the tip, though.
Oh, yeah.
Heyo! I have
Just
to point
curious.
this out. This is my favorite head cover I have. This is my putter head cover. I took a bunch of old patches, GolfSpy patches from hats and things, sent it off to a company, Robert Mark Golf out east, and said, hey, can you do something kind of cool with that? And they did. That's what they came back
Oh,
with.
that is cool.
So let me ask you, so you talked, right, you're a left dash guy, but I saw on Twitter earlier today that Callaway's balls have dropped. The full context of that is the
Yes, Tony. Yes, they have.
Chrome Soft XLS is now available. So will you be looking at that ball as a potential, or are you kind of locked into left dash?
I'm going to test it. I'm always locked into better performance. So if something performs clearly better for me than what's already in my bag, that's out. The next one's in. And so that, for me, that's the bottom line. Will I test it? Yeah, absolutely. Callaway people, send them on
Callaway
over.
people.
So, we'll take a little look-see at them because that's only fair, right? Do I think it's going to beat out the left dash?
It's a high bar. Well, it's a high bar.
I mean, could it happen? Sure. Absolutely, it could happen. Am I expecting it to? No, I'm not expecting it to. But in all fairness, I'll test it and we'll see, and I'll evaluate it fairly. And like I said, if I can shoot a lower score by replacing my 4-iron with a 4 hybrid, I'm going to do it. No questions asked.
This actually brings me to my next topic, Chris. That was an awesome what's in the bag. So thank you very much. Very detailed.
Miranda,
That's
do you
how
have
we
any
like it.
additional questions? I didn't get into like what scrub brush I use or like divot
I mean-
tools or
Do you have iron covers?
they're on order. I don't want to say too much yet because they're going to be pretty damn salty is what they're going to be.
It does bring me into, Chris, you were talking about comparison testing, and John Barba wrote last week this really awesome piece on a company that you might or might not have heard of, Dollar Driver Club. And essentially the premise is that you don't have to buy your drivers to try them and play them, but you can test them.
Correct.
Do you want to get into a little bit more detail, Chris, as to how this works?
Yeah, let's start with kind of the most simple analogy of it. It's kind of leasing a car versus buying a car. And if you want to call it kind of renting, the name itself probably reminds you of some other kind of monthly subscription fee type club things where you could purchase products in kind of that incremental fashion over time. And that's effectively what this is as well. What you commit to is basically like $360 or $365. It's a $30 a month type of fee. You can do it either monthly or in a lump sum. And you say, okay, well, that's great. What do I get for that? Well, you get the opportunity to try out 3 different drivers throughout a 12-month period. You'd say, okay, here's the driver shaft combination I want to start with. They ship it out to you, send a prepaid, return label. If you want to try out a different driver, you ship that one back. They ship you the next one. The next one that shows up to you is not one that somebody else already tried. It's a brand new driver as well. So it's not like you're getting something that's already been played and they're just kind of recycling those through. It's a brand new driver they send out. You try that one. Throughout the year, you can do that. You can try up to 3 different drivers and any of the stock no upcharge shafts in that particular company's lineup. So if you're like, hey man, I really, really like this driver head, but I want to try, now let's dial it in with maybe let's try a different shaft. Same thing. You can switch those shafts out as often as you would like throughout that trial period. So, all right, so now you go down the road, you're basically committed to $360. And for that $360, you get use of up to those 3 driver heads, 3 drivers, unlimited shaft swaps for that year. At the end, you say, great, now what? Well, kind of like a car lease, it's open-ended. You can keep that driver that you have. You could swap back to any of the other 2 drivers that you tried out during the year. And if you want to purchase any of those 3 drivers, you pay the difference between the $360 you've already paid and the original market retail price. So if that driver was, $550 at the beginning of the year, you've paid $360 so far, you got $190 left to go, you pay that difference, you go ahead and keep that driver. Okay, it's yours now.
Say it got, obviously it's original price, but if say it got bumped down by $100, you wouldn't pay.
You still pay you pay the original retail price.
You base on what it was at that time. I know we saw a couple comments, people going, oh, well, this is crazy. At the end of the year, they're going to discount it. It's going to be 50% off 6 months after it comes out. It's like.
But you've already played it for the year.
Well,
so.
2011 called and it wants your comment back, because that's not. Yes,
that's true. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, at a point in time, yes. Did TaylorMade flood the market and do some of those things? Yeah. Did other companies do it as well? Yeah, to some degree. That's not how it is today any longer. So worst case scenario, maybe for the consumer, that driver might be $100 off at the end of the year.
And probably not.
Yeah. And I wouldn't bet on that. So it's not like you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, now I have to pay $550 for a driver that's $299 at retail. That's just not a realistic evaluation of the market right now. Like I said, maybe 10 years ago, but it isn't now. So
and probably more so now than ever with COVID, and we see this. There are inventory constraints, right? A lot of stuff is legitimate back order conditions, and so when demand exceeds supply, you don't discount. That's pretty easy.
Unless you're PXG.
Yeah, and so the other end, so you get to the end of the year, all right, and you're kind of sitting there, and you're saying, all right, well, here's our situation. You could re-up, right? Say, okay, I'll pay another $360, and I will be able to play the new. Whatever it is.
Sim 3.
Then you continue that on, right? And here's the thing. People are going to say, oh, well, basically, you're never, if you wanted to just continue to do that, you're never actually owning the club. You're right. You're not. It's an option, right? If you continue to lease cars, and I know plenty of people that do that every 3 or 4 years, they turn in the car, do something else, whatever, you never actually own that car. You're correct. That's not like a really great deep level of analysis on anybody's part. You're right, but it's an option, right? There are people that would say, hey, for me, I'm going to buy that car, get the best deal I can, drive it till it's in the dirt and dead, and for me, that's how I want to purchase a vehicle. That's Tony. I mean, that's the the Toyota Venza forever, probably like 900,000 miles on the thing, and
Actually, no, I traded in the Venza impulsively, but it was paid off.
Well, yeah, it's philosophical differences, right? Some people with those things would prefer to say, hey, I'd rather pay that because if I, let's say I do buy a driver fairly often, right?
6-7 times a year.
Yeah, I buy that driver, and I'm the person that's been caught in this cycle of I buy a driver. Yeah, we know they do not hold their value very well, right? On the used market, anybody that's purchased a golf club and said, "Oh, I'm gonna look at the possible trade-in values down the road on this." A, dumb way to buy a club. B, you're the Gordon Ramsay idiot sandwich, incarnate. Like it's like, why are you doing that? It makes no sense to me whatsoever. So if you've been caught in that trap, you pay the $500, you go to at the end of the year, trade it in, try to sell it. You're basically in the exact same financial situation you would have been, except you only had one club to play it throughout the year. This way you got a lot more options. It's open-ended. And again, if you want to keep that club and you find that one that you're like, hey, this is it. This is the one I want to keep long term. Great. You can. And you're never going to pay more for it than what you would have paid at retail to begin with. So it's not like you lose money by doing that. You don't end up paying any more for it than you would have had you just bought it outright on day one.
Well, Tony, what do you think? Do you think they're on to something and this might change the way that people shop and use and try golf clubs, or is it going to expand beyond the driver's sphere?
Well, I think, I know they're definitely looking at expanding it. Short answer is something's going to change, right? We've believed golf retail is fundamentally broken, has been for years. And we can go down the list of multiple approaches that companies are currently taking to do things better, more efficiently, more financially viable. So maybe, but I went back and forth with an industry buddy yesterday, and to an extent, this has been tried before and hasn't worked. You can go back years. Cleveland tried an annual lease program, and TaylorMade quietly did it as well. And those programs are gone. And so, you wonder, are they gone because they didn't work? Now,
or are they gone because it was only TaylorMade products that you were using?
That's the next point, right? It's unlikely that somebody's going to sign up for Dollar Driver Club and his 3 selections over the course of a year are going to be Sim Max and Sim Max Draw, right? That's unlikely. So the idea that you have these different brands to choose from is probably a bigger selling point. The thing that I come back to is I think it's only a model that works. It works if your swap rate is relatively low. I think if everybody who subscribed went through 3 drivers a year, it probably goes bottom up pretty quickly, because I struggle to see how the math works there. But if your average turnover is 1 point something, then it probably can succeed long term. And as you grow, obviously if you can scale things, you have opportunities through volume, probably both in your purchasing power as well as kind of your margins on the other end, so to speak. So maybe, but again, we're seeing different things, and this is, I think, one of the different things that could potentially emerge. You're seeing other things that I would point to. Fairway Jockey, which is owned by TrueSpec, I believe, is kind of this thing where you get kind of the option to purchase not only a club, but the more of the fitting experience where you can upgrade to those exotic components. The guys at TXG launching a similar program this week, I believe, or as we record this, it may have just launched. They mentioned it a couple of weeks ago on one of their live streams. And I mean, they're talking about integrating virtual fittings with an online store that is more custom than you would typically get from, going to Dick's Sporting Goods. And so, one of the limitations, and I think it is fair to call it a limitation of Dollar Driver Club right now, is that it is, you can mix and match and try all the different shafts as long as they're stock. And so they are looking into expanding into the exotic space. And so that's kind of the thing too. And you would expect there'd be a price premium with that, but it's a limiting factor. And so it's, how do you launch something that's fundamentally different and financially viable? And that's the ripple right now is
totally,
that's the hurdle is, if I'm in business, how do I make more money? That's ultimately what everybody's trying to do.
I feel like this is good for the game of golf, purely because, I mean, times are tough right now. Money is tight, XYZ. I'd rather test it out every month than just put a $550 into something that we don't know if it's going to work or not. I can't remember who the brand is. It might be Dollar Driver Club, I don't know. Where they have a golf locker at golf courses and you can just rent that driver for a day.
No, yeah, that's somebody else. But yeah, that's another.
But that's another one. So you can.
But it's kind of like having that fleet rental idea where
it is. It's Redbox effectively at the golf course. Like, I'm gonna go in. Hey.
God bless Redbox, man.
Yeah, exactly. Which is cool. Like, all right, shit, PXG today. I'm gonna hit that PXG. Like, see what it's like. That's really cool.
New driver and a can of spray paint.
Darkness.
If we all take out our crystal balls and fast forward to 10 years from now, do you think the golf club buying landscape is different and influenced by these sort of sales models?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I think I want to point out something that Tony touched on just a minute ago is I think that's part of the place we're going to see some evolution is this in-between space, right? Where you have, if you're willing to spend the time, money, whatever, and go and have everything done to the nth degree at a fitter that has the wall of shafts and everything, and there's local fitters, there's, larger chain operations, that's an option for you, right? And that's always, that is an option, right? And you have the big box option, you have these other retail models. It's everything in between those where I think we're going to see a lot of growth. And Tony, again, you mentioned, things like, like Fairway Jockey, where it's like, hey, what if I'm the person, I know what I want. I want the Ventus 6X. I want it tipped half an inch. I want it in this head and at this length and at that swing weight. But I don't want to go pay a couple $100 to have a fitting to tell me that. I already know that that's what I want. There's not much there aren't very many options for that buyer right now. Call it True Spec Light or something, call it Club Champion, Diet Club Champion or whatever. But that type of space, and then you take like the Dollar Driver Club. If I'm somebody that's interested in Dollar Driver Club, something like that, I'm going to go to True Golf Fit. I'm going to see what it recommends for me. I got my 2-3 drivers. I know that that's based on unbelievably solid data, right, that continues to get updated. So I know that information is solid. If I can tell, here's my swing speed, tempo, angle of attack, I'm going to get 2-3 drivers that I know are going to work better for me probably than what I have in my bag. And I just paid $9 for that or whatever, $15, whatever. I got this. I'm not going to pay any more for Dollar Driver Club than I would buying that club retail. Now I can make a much better decision, right? That type of system did not exist 2-3 years ago. And so all of these things in between, the tour level experience and the walk in, buy the lottery ticket, buy it off the rack experience, I think that's where you're going to see the most change.
Yeah, I think you're going to see like this 3-headed kind of monster, and it's going to be like, all right, here are your 3 choices to an extent. And I guess 4 if you like custom fitting. Full on custom fitting is still like that. That's always going to be my top pick. But you're going to see traditional retail is going to try and evolve, but mostly it's going to do what traditional retail does and just drag its feet and do what it's always done. You're going to see these sort of these in-between grounds, whether that's Dollar Driver Club approach, Fairway Jockey, whatever TXG's program looks like, where it's, hey, it's considered a consultation with the ability to pick and choose from premium components. And I think you're also going to see a bigger push from the OEMs to sort of get you all in on the brand. And again, we talked about TaylorMade doing a lease program in the past. Callaway for sure. As much as they talk about fitting, I'm sure would be very happy if you just walked into a store and bought a full bag of Callaway driver to putt. They would love. Callaway would be delighted if your bag started with an Epic Max LS and ended with a triple track putter, right? That would be ideal. And so in that sense, I was kind of, I'm going to pull it up here. I got a marketing email, right? Not a heads up from our PR people over there, but I got a marketing email from PXG. And they're actually doing full bag pricing. So if you go in and say, hey, what, I want everything from PXG. I want to go driver to putter with a bag and a hat. So to give you a sense, so
it's
that
really cool. It's a really good deal. Yeah,
so that drops the price on 0211 from $2,760 to $1,995. And going up to Gen 4, cuts Gen 4 from basically $6,350 for a full bag down to, $5,000, which is still, we're still in premium price bracket, but you're knocking a good chunk off of that. And quite frankly, I don't know if you saw their new apparel launch, but
I did.
If they threw in a pair of their $160 shorts, it kind of gets you to a case where it's worth it.
It's interesting. It's basically a 25% discount, which is, ironically, or maybe not ironically, oftentimes very close to the wholesale to retail costs. I know PXG isn't retail focused, but if it's TaylorMade, Callaway, whomever, and they're going through, Dick's Sporting Goods or through PJ Superstore, whatever,
it's a little more. I would say it's closer to splitting the difference.
Maybe more in that 30 to 35 points, but the reality is, the more that those companies could sell direct to a consumer, the more money they're going to make, right?
Again, with the kind of this emergence of not only like online stores have been around forever, but right, we saw it when COVID kicked in, companies very quickly started or swapped over to this online fitting model where you could you could essentially get on a Zoom session with a fitter and, you know, whether it was a driver, irons, whatever you're going for, kind of, again, consult on a new bag. You call it an online fitting. I would call it more of a consultation than anything else, but you have that service. And now if you can pair that with an incentive to go, hey, you know what, as long as we're talking, let's sell you on a full bag of TaylorMade golf clubs. And if I can get you to go, you know, driver to putter, we'll include a bag, some other swag, like I said, you know, pair of $160 shorts if you're lucky.
Tony, you just want the paratrooper blue shirt.
He wants those budgie smugglers.
I gotta tell you, like, I'm not lying. I'm certainly curious what a $160 pair of shorts feels like, because it better not just
probably no different than.
Yeah, I was gonna say it better damn sure not feel like another pair of shorts.
They better tickle something, you know.
Yeah, better be some undocumented features like the flat setting on the driver. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see some pretty drastic changes, but I'd probably call it additional options, because I think retail going to retail, but and retail being retail is going to create lots of opportunities for others to step in and create unique programs.
Yeah. I see it.
What are we at?
Breaking news. Now at
I was just going to say it's time for us to go, but Harry, why don't you finish up? What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say I see it going as a lot more of those lockers, but on the left of them, it's going to be like a True Golf Fit system where you go in, you put in your swing speed or some kind of matrix, and then it says, hey, out of this stuff in the locker, we recommend trying this.
Like a vending machine?
Basically, it could be a vending machine.
That's kind of cool.
It's almost like coming full circle, because I know when I first started playing golf, and you know, I don't know how widespread it was. Maybe I was just fortunate that the store in my area did it, but I could walk into a golf store, give them $100 deposit, and they would give me a driver or a set of irons or whatever to go play on the course, right? And then I can come back. And I'm like, no, I don't really like this. Go, all right, well, hey, thanks for trying them. Here's your $100 back. And so it was sort of like there was a dollar driver club right at the local golf shop, and it was free. And I think, you know,
that probably didn't last.
I was going to say that store is not in business anymore, but
I see a couple problems with that model, but
yeah, but it was one of those things, or a credit card, whatever I had to give him, probably more than $100 if I think about it. But you know, it was like that ability, like there was a legitimate demo program, and you don't see that anymore, because just the way that the equipment market works is, as soon as somebody hits that club, the value, it's like driving the car off the lot. You know, keep it in the parking lot, man.
A lot of things dropping today. Balls dropping, prices dropping.
For No Putts Given, I'm Miranda Nodwell. Chris, Tony, Harry, we're signing off. We out. So I want to know if it's possible to fit me for a whole set just based on that, or did I waste my money? Chris, what do you think about our tester's question?
First of all, I think it's a great question, because it's one of those kind of aha things that people probably relate to really well. Like, yeah, most